In this evening's episode of Coronation Street, Kevin Webster uncovered yet another shocking truth, one that's left him feeling lonelier than ever. This week has been a nightmare for Kevin, who's been shattered by the revelation that his wife, Abi, had an affair with his own brother, Carl. After realizing how deeply Abi cares for Carl, Kevin threw her out of their home, unable to forgive the betrayal. However, things went from bad to worse in tonight's installment. Kevin was appalled to learn that his sister, Debbie, had known about the affair all along and had chosen to keep it from him. Kevin's heartbreak deepens. Kevin was left crushed once again in Coronation Street tonight after discovering that Debbie had deceived him too. Viewers already know that Debbie had previously caught Abi and Carl together at the Chariot Square Hotel. Although she was disgusted by what she saw, Debbie decided not to say anything. She did, however, drop a pointed hint to Kevin, suggesting he might want to find a good divorce lawyer. In the end, Abi's shameful secret came out anyway, thanks to an accidental text message sent straight to Kevin's phone. While Kevin tried to come to terms with the betrayal, Abi attempted to calm the situation. She let herself back into the house, but this only angered Kevin further. He ordered her to hand over her keys and warned Carl to stay away from him completely. Kevin's downward spiral continued later when he made an unwise move on Glenda. When Debbie learned what had happened, she stopped by to check on her heartbroken brother. But she made things even worse when she accidentally revealed that she'd known about Abi and Carl's affair for quite some time. Stunned and furious, Kevin kicked Debbie out, leaving him feeling even more alone. Kevin's isolation deepens. Coronation Street spoilers. Next week, Abi is still hoping to maintain some peace with Kevin. She agrees to let him spend time with Alfie, but quickly changes her mind after seeing just how angry he still is. However, she promises that he can look after Alfie another day instead. Kevin, overwhelmed and distraught, breaks down in tears. Tensions rise further later in the week when Abi accuses him of ruining her chances of getting a new job. As Kevin continues to push everyone away, the question remains, can anyone reach him before it's too late? All the Coronation Street spoilers for next week as tempers flare. The drama shows no signs of slowing down on the cobbles next week, especially within the Webster family. Debbie is desperate to make Kevin understand that she never intended to hurt him by staying silent about Abi and Carl's affair. However, Kevin, who threw Debbie out on Friday, October 10th, isn't ready to forgive or forget, sparking yet another heated confrontation between the feuding siblings. But that's far from the only drama unfolding in Weatherfield. Lisa Swain has a few harsh words for Becky after Betsy ends up spending the night behind bars. Meanwhile, Todd Grimshaw is left uneasy as he tries to figure out how to explain his unexpected overnight stay at Billy Mayhew's flat to Theo. If you're eager for an early glimpse of the upcoming chaos, you're in luck. We've got 3 exclusive preview clips from next week's episodes. Wednesday, October 15th. Todd wakes up at Billy's flat after spending the night there. Billy, curious and concerned, asks if Todd plans to tell Theo where he stayed. He suggests Todd have a chat with Theo to reassure him that nothing untoward happened. Todd, however, isn't sure how to handle the situation and tells Billy to leave it for now, admitting he hasn't yet decided what to say. He walks away clearly torn and confused. Friday, October 17th. Lisa receives word about Betsy's arrest and the night she spent in a police cell. Becky tries to smooth things over, but her efforts only make matters worse when Lisa snaps back, accusing her of being the real reason Betsy has been acting out since her unexpected return. Coronation Street's Tim faces the truth about Trisha and leaves Sally reeling. Tim Metcalf made a life-changing choice in tonight's episode of Coronation Street, finally coming clean to Sally Metcalf about his past with Trisha Pinkerton. Earlier in the week, Tim had picked up Trisha as a fare in his cab, and it quickly became obvious that there was more to their connection than a casual acquaintance. The pair spent the afternoon reminiscing and catching up, but Sally wasn't impressed, especially after being left to eat her anniversary meal alone. Tim's flimsy excuse about where he'd been only deepened the tension, prompting Sally to order him to spend the night on the sofa. The next day, Tricia reappeared at the cab office, this time bringing along one of Tim's favorite pastries. When Brian Packham dropped by, Tim introduced the two of them, and they seemed to get on well, until Sally showed up. The mood soured when Tricia proudly mentioned she was friends with the owner, completely unaware that Sally was, in fact, Tim's wife. An awkward moment followed as Sally formally introduced herself, and Tricia made a quick exit. Later, as Tim and Brian chatted, Tim revealed more about his history with Tricia, explaining that he used to deliver papers to her dad and that she'd worked in the local corner shop when they met. Brian was stunned when Tim admitted that Tricia had been his first sexual partner, and that he was just 14 at the time. Given that Tricia had been in her 20s, Brian was appalled and pointed out that her actions amounted to grooming, though Tim refused to see it that way. In tonight's scenes, Tricia ran into Brian at the cafe while trying to track Tim down. Unable to hold back, Brian confronted her over what had happened years ago, accusing her of taking advantage of a teenager. Tricia was horrified by the accusation. Moments later, Tim arrived, and when Tricia told him what Brian had said, he immediately leapt to her defense. Realizing he couldn't change Tim's mind, Brian urged him to confide in Sally instead. Though reluctant, Tim had little choice after Sally stormed into the cab office, having already heard about the heated exchange. When Tim finally told her what the argument had been about, Sally was left in utter shock. Coronation Street, Sally confronts Tim with the truth about Tricia, as he makes a difficult choice. Just as Brian had warned, Sally quickly recognized that what had happened between Tim and Tricia wasn't a youthful romance. It was abuse. She challenged Tim's belief that the situation had been harmless, reminding him that the friends who once congratulated him were teenagers themselves and not capable of judging what was right or wrong. It was clear that Tim didn't want to continue the discussion, still insisting that his experience with Tricia had been mutual and enjoyable. But Sally refused to let the matter rest. When Tim returned home later that day, he found her scrolling through Tricia's social media. Sally pointed out a troubling comment on one of Tricia's photos, one suggesting she should be in prison, which only deepened her conviction that Tricia may have behaved this way before. Tim accused her of making unfair assumptions, arguing that the age gap between himself and Tricia back then was the same as the one between him and Sally now. Growing frustrated, Sally firmly reminded him that he was an adult in their relationship, but a child when he was involved with Tricia, meaning he hadn't been capable of giving consent. Although the pair still couldn't agree, Tim eventually accepted that it was best to end contact with Tricia altogether. Meeting her at the Rovers, he gently explained his decision. Tricia was taken aback, asking if he now believed she had groomed him. Tim assured her that he didn't, but added that this was exactly why he needed to step back, as Sally could easily misinterpret the situation. Now that Tricia appears to be out of the picture for good, the question remains, can Tim finally face the truth and come to terms with what really happened to him? Coronation Street continues Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and is available to stream from 7 a.m. on ITVX and YouTube.